but I know like RTC, it spins so fast that it repels a lot of rain. You can actually put your hand kind of near it and you can feel the rain flow. Like I can't say enough about how far Faro has come. Their data used to be super noisy, and now it's not. I don't think so. I think it's better than no survey control. You know?
Oh yeah. Well, what are you going to do? The deal is there are times when we must manipulate the data to do what we want.
Yeah.
You know? But we have to be able to do that. You can't.
If they think that's a hack, my next step for that would be to export all of the targets from Register 360 and then rotate and scale them in like an infinity. If I only had using 2 of them, say, you had one that was bad. And once I rotate it and scale it, it'll give me that third one in order to get great. But this is supposed to be a casual,
Yeah, we're all adults. We just show up, right?
Yeah. Well, not even just that. I mean, like, the idea behind this when I first thought of it was I'll work on my stuff, and if people show up and need support, they can get it. If not, it'll just be a streaming video in the background. But there's no reason it can't evolve into whatever we decide we want it to be, People go to podcasts, or people watch podcasts, people go to webinars, but like there's something a little bit different where like you could be interactive, right?
For sure, man. You know how much stuff I've learned how to fix on YouTube?
I know.
CAD, Cyclone, 3DR. I mean, I go through that stuff for a lot of things. So
you know what? The one thing I don't like about YouTube is the one step that I don't get, and I can't. You can yell at the screen as much as you want, but you won't get your answer, right?
Yeah. I mean, if I never had to deal with anything besides, just scanning and processing, I'd be a happy clam.
You can be creative with it, right? Or just plain Jane,
Yeah.
But
there's a little bit of artistry and a little bit of profession in it, right?
He'll spend 2 to 4 days with a measuring tape and a notepad.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so that's the main point of value that he saw in it. But yeah, somewhere at that point.
It's 2 at 10, so yeah, you're right. It's 6 at 40 or 8 at 40.
I can tell you, well, that's a spacing, for the,
Oh, is that the resolution? Isn't that the?
No, that's the accuracy is 2, I thought. You're gonna make me pull up the white paper.
Yeah, pull it up. And I'm telling you, that's
yeah, keep me honest here. But I'm pretty sure the 3D accuracy is plus minus like 4.2 millimeters at 40 mil or 40 meters. Because I scanned this thing in like 10 minutes. And I had to go around because it was up close against a building. So I had to scan the counterweight from the other side of the apartment building and then traverse around so I could close it, right?
But yeah, you're right. It's 5.3 millimeters at 40 meters.
Okay, so a little higher, but cool.
Is that spacing for?
That's accuracy.
All right.
Now and I don't know what kind of range noise that would be, because that's where you start to see the major stuff. But no, it's next to nothing on range noise. Yeah.
I can tell you from my experience, just saying, I've had that RTC 360 outpunch the P50. I can tell you from my experience, just saying, I've had that RTC 360 outpunch the P50.
P40.
Wow, really?
Oh yeah. I mean, and I was surprised. The other thing is the amount of time that you save, running the RTC versus the any of the P series scanners is so significant that I could do more scans in the same amount of time and collect more data.
Oh yeah. So your measurements, again, this goes back to checks, right?
Yeah.
So your measurements are fine, but you have no proof that they're fine, right? And something happens and then boom, they're going to be like, hey, what about this, right? And now you're hooped.
You're doing. This is just in my brain how I would do this workflow. And this is interesting because I work for Turner Construction. We have several tower cranes most of the time. But if you were to scan it on the ground and model that, and then scan it when it was in the air, you could take that model and do a BIM comparison between the two. And while the data may not be, you may have deviation in the data, it's not all going to be bad data, right? So you could essentially look for red flags, kind of,
like blowouts, right?
Yeah.
But that's actually smart.
Shakes out. Well, this is why this is a good forum to get into, because you have other people to bounce stuff off of, right? That's how we actually started working together so often. Is it's hard to find people that have a lot of industry experience that are doing this type of stuff a lot.
I mean, that's actually,
as long as nobody can tell you it's wrong. I mean, somebody has to measure it better than you at that point,
Yeah, and so it's learning where the tolerances matter, right? So in every scenario, the client, almost every single scenario that I've ever encountered in construction, you're asked to go above and beyond, right? They're purchasing room to move, right? So if your stuff is super tight, they can do more, right? Rather than having to think or whatever. But certain things, again, like so like a footing for housing especially, right? You're just pinning the corners. They come up with these rotten 2x10s, like who cares, right? Like, let's get, like, you still want the points to be accurate, right? Okay, we did our job, but if you don't do that, it's like competing in the Tour de France and not taking steroids, because most surveyors just do topo, right? Like, it's the grass,
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think topos barely even qualify as surveyors' work, really.
That's okay.
I mean, it's a lot of their work, don't get me wrong, but it's like, it's within a tenth, let's go.
But I will say, like, I got my hands recently on a StoneX rover and receiver from David Moss, and it's got the IMU in it, and so it's very similar, where you can lean it up to 60 degrees. And it's pretty good. I mean, again, it's obviously not total station accurate, it's GPS, but I've tied into some of the local state plane monuments that I have in some of my projects while on the network, and been within 2.5 centimeters on X, Y, and Z, which is okay.
The thing about an IMU is it either works or it doesn't. There's no gray area. Like, an IMU is going to work until it just stops. What's funny is, for the longest time, I bought into the Leica Kool-Aid pretty heavily, and like just pure Leica guy for forever. And now that I'm kind of exploring some of the other options out there, I've explored them before. Like, I looked at Faro when Faro was new, and like it was very comparable to the BLK 360, the super noisy data and everything. But I just played with the Faro Focus. That data is beautiful. So it's kind of interesting to get to play with some of the other things, like the StoneX's and stuff now.
Baking soda and water. That's another.
We did test that along with this, and actually baking soda and water. Well, it was it baking soda? Yeah.
No, it was talcum powder and alcohol is what we used.
Yeah. Baby powder.
Right. Yeah. Same thing.
And that performed the worst, actually.
Yeah, it was still, fair.
Yeah.
You weren't picking up a reflection quite like you were.
Yeah, all you're trying to do is kill the reflection.
Yeah. I thought it actually had some waviness in the data.
It did. Yeah. But I don't really care about waviness on a mirror or a window. Yeah. Mac and I actually did a side-by-side comparison between the RTC and the Faro Focus. And
which model?
The premium. The newest one. And I tell you, the real key factor is having that 360 camera on top, because it's a 28-second scan with pictures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Leica would be very comparable if it could take the pictures at the same time like that.
Yeah. It was. I got to say, I was a little frustrated watching Mac, move ahead at 30-second scans while I, here I am stuck with these 1.5-minute scans or whatever. I quit taking pictures, still was behind him. We did like 15 scans or something like that. but man, he blew me away. And if you guys are doing field scanning, like we went from the P20s and P50s and the scan station 2s and all that, right? Where it take 50 minutes for a scan. Now we're down to like minute and a half, 2 minutes, 4 minutes for a, dual face, color scan. And it's too long.
And we compared the data in 3DR and there was no discernible difference,
Yeah, it was
because RTC, I might talk shit about it here and there now, but like it is still my go-to. Like if I want data, I know, because for the first year of owning an RTC, I compared it constantly to total station measurements to make sure, and it checked out every time. So it's my, like, whenever I'm testing a scanner, I test it against the RTC, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, also they haven't made any changes since 2018.
Yeah, it's time. It's definitely time. My other thing is the software. I love even Cyclone, Register 360, and 3DR, man, are like they're my favorite scan software. I don't know about I haven't dabbled enough with the Faro scene, but the little bit that I have seen with it was not as intuitive to me. I guess I probably felt that way back when Cyclone was still a bread and butter, but
I actually have a lot of people calling. They want to keep their Faro scanners, but they pick up Register 360.
I didn't know that most of the people using Faro were doing third-party scanning software or registration software until this new update.
I would be interested in seeing the Faro. What is it? The Focus.
Focus, yeah.
With how if I can dump that into.
They won't even look at other stuff. So I mean, there might be something there, but it also might just be how I didn't look anywhere past Leica for years.
I think they claim to have 1,000-meter range, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah. So that's a cool environment to be in. That's kind of like what I want this will eventually to grow into, is like you almost learn as much from just being around the people in it, the smart people from the industry that go there, as you do from the instructors.
Yeah, I actually found at a certain point. So it was super it was great for me because like I've used scanners, but I'm new to like processing and whatever. And it was great to see people and their different workflows that they were requesting, right? So that was kind of cool. It kind of opened my eyes up a bit. But then at a certain point for like the advanced stuff, so like 3DR, for example, it was like a 2-hour class. And essentially the majority of the class was the guy brings up, he's like, okay, here's half a dandelion. All right, we're going to mirror it and fill it all in, all the gaps, and then we're going to spread the dandelion across the field and infill the field and stuff. So like wild, right? It was pretty wild how accurate he made the flower, right?
Yeah.
It was super, super neat. You were watching a lot of loading bars and stuff. But then at the end of it, all of us walked out. We're like, oh, that was super neat. But like,
I'll never use it.
Yeah, how the hell am I going to make money doing that shit? Hey, I've got a question for you guys.
Yeah.
So this whole time I'm trying to create a mesh of a scene because this client claims he needs the thing to be an OBJ file.
Okay.
Right? He wants to like plop in a crane for interference. Does that make sense that the whole scene has to be an object as well as the crane?
I mean,
right?
If that's what the software that he wants to use requires, right?
Okay.
So I think he has a requirement because he wants to take it into some other software, right?
Yeah, I would imagine Revit or something along those lines.
Revit, if it was Revit, you could bring in an IFC that's that mesh.
Yeah, well,
yeah, that works as well.
He specifically requested OBJ, but he's the owner too, right? So I'm wondering, now I'm looking at this loading bar. I don't know if it's my laptop that sucks, which it kind of does, or if maybe there's just too many points because I did 4 scans at the highest density. And I've had this thing running for 3 hours and I'm like at 45%.
And how are you meshing it? I'm assuming in 3DR.
Yeah.
Scan to mesh. Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of laptop is it?
A piece of junk. What is it? An ThinkPad. Yeah.
Then it probably is going to take that long. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably what, 16 at the most gigs of RAM?
I think it's a little more. I think it's 32. I think what it is it's the minimum spec requirement to run, not the recommended, the minimum for 3DR.
I will say so my last laptop, it was a $7,000 laptop, 120 gigs of RAM. I mean, just decked out, right? Yeah. And I would scan to mesh very fast, and I never understood what people were complaining about until I have this. This is by no means. I got 64 gigs of RAM. This thing is actually a really good laptop, but it's a considerable difference. So
yeah, well,
I'm thinking.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Probably want to run that mesh as the last thing you do before the day, and then just let your computer sit. One of the things you're probably going to run across is make sure that there's some air blowing on it. You're probably going through some thermal throttling. I mean, realistically, if we weren't always on the go, a desktop would be your best option.
Another thing is to make sure you have enough space. You'll notice like you can use up all your storage really quickly, and if you're processing and it doesn't have the enough storage to save whatever your deliver, then it will lock up and it'll go forever until it actually tells you you don't have enough space.
Yeah, good call. I just texted my guy. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll have that knocked out. No worries. I watched a 2-minute video on YouTube. It was sped up, but I'm sure it won't take too long.
Reg 360 uses up more data on my machine, I think, than anything. I mean, honestly, it's amazing how fast I can fill up 500 gigs or whatever.
And you really need 2.5 of what that data is. So if you're importing, a 50 gigabyte file, you need 150 gigabytes of storage because it does a backup at the same time in case it has a dump, right? That was gonna be my next question is how do you transfer the files? Because I've been using ShareFile, but so you guys just have a server in common with them down there.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, or what's that? What's the other one we use? WeTransfer.
Okay. I haven't heard of WeTransfer. All right. Well, I think that's the end of the hour we had set aside for this. Did you guys find any value in it? Did you fun at all, or?
I had fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Always. It's always to see what everybody else is doing, right? In different parts of U.S., right? Because we're all over North America, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
No, and
we have an office in Miami, and I want to open up California or Vancouver by third quarter next year.
Nice.
So.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we should probably do it again sometime.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. I'm probably bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly, once a month at least.
Yeah.
But I think to gain traction, let's do it bi-weekly.
Yeah.
Like if you want to do it weekly and to attract more people on LinkedIn and this and that.
I was thinking bi-weekly, and then if more people come, then we do it weekly, But I had several customers buy one over the BLK to go, so it's something to look at for sure. I haven't got to play with it, but the new Faro Orbis looks interesting with both where you can put it on a little tripod and stop and scan.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a terrible.
And then the new Leica Pulse is coming out next quarter.
And that's still just interior only, which is probably great for your storefronts. That whole sensor still blows my mind. How it's basically what?
I just go in with an RTC. I don't even mess with anything. It's like forget about BLK. Just give me. I'll go in with an RTC because it's like I can do so much, and I don't have to have all these scanners. I just run in with the RTC, right?
Yeah, it'd have to be pretty. To me, the RTC, even in the BLK lineup, is the backbone, and then all the BLKs are secondary scanners, right? The Gen 2 is great, except it the battery capacity and storage capacity really limits you if you're used to using an RTC.
A shame think something new under the sun. You can't take back them things you already done. No.